Want to know what I eat?
We are surrounded by carcinogens, and many of them are in the air we breathe and the foods that are sold to us in the markets. Yet some people never get cancer. Now, I don't think it's because they're lucky. I think it's because they're doing things that help, not just because we're living longer, as the highest rising cancer rates are in young adults. DNA damage is how we all get cancer. I used to think exposure to toxins made the greatest difference, but now I realize that the lack of exposure to protectants makes an even greater difference. The younger you're exposed to carcinogens, the higher your risk. The longer you get these protectants, the lower your risk. And that's why I eat foods to help repair my DNA. Want to know what I eat? Take a look at this. Here are some of my top 10 foods that I eat on a daily or at least weekly basis to prevent cancer. And when you protect your DNA, you keep your immunity strong. You will literally look younger than your biological age. Now, I know a lot of you have been wondering how old I am. Well, my oldest child is in graduate school, and I've been a physician for over 25 years. You can do the math. And number one is shiitake mushrooms. They contain lentinins, a sugar molecule, or a polysaccharide called 1,3-beta-glucans. This boosts the immune system, enhances T-cell activity, and indirectly kills cancer cells. Now, this is an example of a very healthy sugar. Have you ever heard of medicines that actually selectively help your good cells while they harm your bad cells? That doesn't happen with medicines. It only happens in natural food. Natural foods have more than just a single ingredient. You get to eat the whole package, perfectly designed for life. In 1969, a Japanese scientist, Chadhara Akira, isolated lentinin from shiitake mushrooms, which enhance immune function and have activity against gastric cancer cells. Now, lentinin boosts macrophage and natural killer cell activity, which directly targets cancer cells in animal studies. In clinical trials, lentinin is considered a biological modifier and enhances the activity of cancer chemotherapy agents such as gemcitabine, paclitaxel, docetaxel, cisplatin, and monoclonal antibodies. It has also improved the quality of life in patients with esophageal carcinoma, non-small cell lung cancer, and advanced gastric cancers. Now, by itself, it's not proven to be as effective. Most of the positive effects of lentinin initially appeared in animal studies, such as mice, showing a reduction in tumor size by 33%. With such promising results and such catastrophic outcomes for people with end-stage cancer, Japanese physicians decided to infuse their patients with lentinin. Believe it or not, lentinin increased the lifespan by almost a month in people with advanced lung cancer. Now, overseas, intravenous lentinin has been shown to improve the quality of life in people with cancer, and oral formulations of lentinin appear also to have some effects in certain cancers. Now, lentinin is only available intravenously outside of the United States, but you can get extracts as a dietary supplement here in the US, or you can just eat shiitake mushrooms like I do. So, however, make sure you cook those mushrooms thoroughly, or you may break out with a shiitake rash 10 days later. Now, you may think it's ridiculous to give a drug that has only been shown to expand people's lifespan by about a month. Months to some people is really worth it. But we've actually been doing this with cancer chemotherapy for decades. In 2012, 4 doses of a drug called ipilimumab cost $20,000, and they were given to people with metastatic melanoma with a prognosis of less than 6 months. Now, people who received that treatment survived 1.6 months longer than those who didn't. Do you know how long untreated patients with metastatic melanoma lived? 2.1 months. Now, fortunately, it's really hard to treat cancer once you have metastatic disease. Cancer drugs have this second worst failure rate behind Alzheimer's drugs, which is pretty sad because there's really no effective Alzheimer's drugs. But probably the worst investment of all is an antibiotic, and that's why nobody's doing any research to find new antibiotics. About 40% of Americans will get cancer. 14% of Americans over 70 will have dementia. But every single person on earth, no matter age, will get 10 or more infectious diseases across their lifetime. Do you find that disturbing? That medicines are skewed towards certain fields? And what's the common link? Money. Businesses need to make money. Now, I'm all for Big Pharma making their investment back so that they can do more research and development to find new drugs to improve our quality of life.
But I find it extremely unfair that people who live in the U.S. like us are paying 3 times the drug prices that are outside of the United States. And on top of that, we have this thing called pharmacy benefit managers who keep prices artificially high on behalf of Big Pharma.
So if this makes you mad, then you have to keep yourself healthy so that you don't become a customer of Big Pharma and also benefit those big, giant pharmacy benefit managers. Hence, you and I are on our own when it comes to staying healthy and preventing all of the bad diseases that cost a lot of money to treat. But the good news is your immune system can do it. If you can take care of your immune system early and help it prevent mutant DNAs, they just need a little bit of help. The only way that you can communicate with your immune system is through your lifestyle, and it starts with what you eat and what you don't eat. So talking like all other mushrooms have more than just lint in it. It also has an orgal finding, a unique antioxidant that reduces oxidative stress. Oxidative stress can make you susceptible to cancers, particularly in the colon. But all our cells literally have these sectors for herbal finding. This is why it's important that we eat mushrooms on a daily basis. When you eat edible mushrooms, you're eating a rich source of polysaccharides and selenium that help your immune system fight cancers. Mushrooms are literally what ancient cultures have used when there was no Big Pharma around. We are lucky to have access to Big Pharma drugs that are life-saving. Now, I'm not against using prescription drugs at all and want them around for when I need them. I prescribe them all the time. And most of the world, they don't have a pharmacy to get prescription drugs or pharmacy benefit managers. The fact that the U.S. suffered the most casualties between 2020 and 2022 over any other nation in this world should give you pause and consider that the rest of this world really knows a lot more about longevity despite not having big tech, big pharma, and big pharmacy benefit managers. What am I doing that most people in America aren't? Well, they're eating real food and not spending astronomical prices on chemicalized beverages, snacks, and prescription drugs. And I'm going to come see Health in America. You either will front load the costs in your grocery bill or you will backload the costs in your prescription drugs. Some people think that the U.S. government benefits from this prescription drug setup. No, I don't think so. Medicare is going broke, paying for astronomical prices. And who pays for Medicare? We do, taxpayers. And in the end, each taxpayer loses twice. We have to pay into Medicare, even if we don't get to use it.
And we all have to pay over 3 times more for prescription drugs compared to other nations. That leaves a bitter taste in my mouth.
Grass, Shotzi, mushrooms, they give an umami flavor to surprise soups and sandwiches. And while you're at the grocery store, go to the spice aisle and pick up number 2, turmeric. Now, turmeric has been used in herbal medicine for over 4,000 years. South Asian households use it not only in their food, but also in ceremonial rituals. Now, it's a great food coloring agent for food and cosmetics, and it's much safer than yellow 5 and yellow 6, which have been found to be contaminated with benzidine and other carcinogens. It's such a shame that Big Food is allowed to use these chemicals in our food, contributing to rising healthcare costs. And they knew early on that they were feeding us crap and that they needed to improve their PR. In 1974, McDonald's partnered with the Philadelphia Children's Hospital to open the first Ronald McDonald House. Isn't that pretty ironic? Fast food partnering with hospitals. Literally, in Canada and Europe, any food that contains yellow 5 and yellow 6 are required to have a health warning label. Why can't people just use turmeric? It's an excellent food dye. You can prove it to yourself by spilling some on your shirt. And more importantly, why wouldn't you want to eat turmeric? It gives you curcumin, the coveted ingredient that downregulates NF-kappa B, a protein complex that promotes inflammation and allows cancer cells to invade apoptosis. Turmeric also inhibits angiogenesis, starving tumors of their blood supply. But there's more than just curcumin when you eat turmeric. There are tumor and oils and water-soluble curcumin A. And did you know that in the 1970s, Bangladesh had a water crisis in which 80% of their 57 million people got poisoned with heavy levels of arsenic in their water. Now, UNICEF installed 2 wells to pump clean water, but it pumped in astronomical high rates of arsenic-contaminated water, and they forgot to test that groundwater for arsenic. Literally, arsenic is a known carcinogen. People got such high doses that they had evidence of arsenicosis on their skin. And by giving these people turmeric extract, it was shown to reverse their DNA damage from arsenic. In addition, turmeric may help to improve mood as well as cognitive performance and relieve the gastrointestinal symptoms and treat osteoarthritis, vitiligo, and liver problems. And when used in conjunction with chemotherapy, turmeric has shown to improve the quality of life in certain cancer patients, especially help with the inflammatory side effects of radiation to treat cancer. Now, people always talk about black pepper or turmeric because black pepper increases levels of, and they use the term enhanced absorption. But in reality, black pepper does not increase the absorption of turmeric. This is one of those food myths that have been propagated on the internet. Black pepper has a component in it called piperine that will elevate curcumin levels by preventing its destruction. Now, when you normally ingest black pepper, that piperine directly inhibits liver enzymes, which would usually rapidly destroy curcumin within minutes. So the half-life of curcumin is approximately 1 to 2 hours by itself. But with piperine, half-life of curcumin is extended to 4 to 8 times, which then increases the bioavailability of curcumin by 2,000%. However, when you inhibit one liver enzyme, you usually will inhibit its role in metabolizing other toxins in your environment. And this is especially true for drugs. So if you're concentrating toxins, let's say you're taking a pharmaceutical drug, you may be affecting the levels of that drug as well. And this is why you have to be very careful when you eat certain foods if you're taking medications. Now, personally, I prefer a safer way to truly enhance absorption of curcumin without interfering with my liver enzymes and potentially the levels of other drugs. Even though I don't personally take any drugs, I do take supplements. So instead, I take turmeric with probably, and that's why I take a supplement with both. I eat turmeric every day, either in my supplement or in my foods. Curcumin is known to disrupt cancer signaling pathways, inhibit tumor growth, and reduce inflammation. And of course, by itself, it's not a miracle herb. When you narrow it down to like a curcumin supplement, you lose a lot of the curcumin oils and the other polyphenols that also act as antioxidants in the original food. Now, when you go to a supplement store, you'll find curcumin in different formulations. Ever heard of liposomal curcumin? Liposomal formulations are a phospholipid barrier to carry in molecules that are both water soluble, and they are typically used as stabilizing ingredients that have a low bioavailability, such as curcumin. And in animal studies, liposomal curcumin has been more effective compared to the standard curcumin formulations. But liposomal formulations are generally more expensive, and currently there's no human data to say that it works any better than taking turmeric extracts. Now, sometimes you'll find raw, fresh turmeric in the produce section. And while you're there, look for number 3, kale. During World War II, the British government promoted kale cultivation as a part of their Dig for Victory campaign. Recognizing its nutritional value during food shortages And boy, did Europe have a major food shortage during World War II. I seem to recall that we had major food shortage during the Great Depression.
I don't hear anybody. It's no small feat for the British to get everyone on board. So the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries instituted a massive educational campaign using leaflet guides and films to help people learn why it was important for them to grow their own food, ration, and not waste food.
And as a result, the British were probably a lot healthier and better fed from a nutritional standpoint than we are today. We can learn a few lessons from them. I can't remember the last time the U.S. government ever did a nutritional campaign. In fact, learning about nutrition in school is like learning about finances in school. Neither of those happened. And I don't think that still exists no matter what level of education you're getting. But now we have social media and a plethora of folks teaching the wrong stuff that fills in the void. Go figure. Like all leafy green vegetables, kale has a lot of nutrients, including fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A. It also has water-soluble vitamins, iron, and chlorophyll. Now, have you heard that you should massage your kale with some oil before you eat it? Massaging actually is helpful because it breaks down the cell walls of the kale, allowing two important molecules to combine before you swallow that kale. Those molecules are called glucoraphanin and morosinase. And the end product is so far away, which is the anti-cancer molecule. Now, don't go overboard with the oil. It'll just give you more calories. And if you're going to use oil, put a good quality oil like extra virgin olive oil. The oil can help enhance absorption of fat-soluble vitamins and take a little bit of the bitterness out of the kale. So the way that I use oil in my kale is that I actually make it into a solid dressing that is whole food plant-based. Now, here's my basic solid dressing recipe. So in a blender, blend together 1 carrot, clean it of course, 1 green onion, 1 bell pepper. And that's about 3 foods and about 1 inch of ginger skin and all. Of course, clean that too. And then 1 peeled garlic clove and 3 or 4 whole gates, as well as a teaspoon of miso paste. Now, you can add that with a little bit of water and blend it until it's pulverized. You're basically making a kind of smoothie with all these ingredients. It should come out a bit thick. Now pour that out and add a tablespoon of sesame seeds and a teaspoon of sesame oil, then stir well. This is a dressing that I will drown in my dishes. I literally pour that over a block of plain tofu and eat it as is. If you try it, let me know what you think.
Hi friends! I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you on this lifelong journey.
So, if you point your camera app at this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes. And then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now. In general, the cruciferous family of vegetables are a little bit more dry and maybe more difficult to eat, but I always try to eat them daily because of that. So for a FAN molecule, it activates nerve to a pathway that detoxifies carcinogens and disrupts the ability of cancer cells to spread when early. So for our FANs, most commonly accredited at broccoli, but no cruciferous vegetables actually have suffering, and said all cruciferous vegetables have glucoraphanin. Now, when you break up the vegetables by massaging it and blending it, chopping it, there is an enzyme in the vegetable called myrcene that then converts glucoraphanin into sufferings. Now, some people will go out and just take a suffering supplement. Luckily, I have the internet, and that's where I get number 4, black raspberries. Now, this is a pretty rare find. I didn't even know black raspberries existed. It only grows in certain regions like the Pacific Northwest. And that's what I thought until I learned that there was actually black raspberries in Asia, Korean black raspberries called Rubus koreanus. The black raspberries in the raspberry family, but it contains such a large amount of anthocyanins comparable to blueberries, but they also have bioactives similar to raspberries. So when you eat black raspberries, you're in fact getting a 2 for raspberries and blueberries all at once at the same time. Berries are very good to help muscle relaxation and muscle healing, and this is partially due to the berries' effect on calcium metabolism, as well as increasing glutathione activity. Now, specifically, berries seem to reduce release of calcium from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Now, berries also reduce inflammation. 30 grams of freeze-dried black raspberries reduce the inflammatory marker called CRP levels in 4 weeks. I couldn't find Korean black raspberries, but I found this specific Northwest black raspberries, and this tastes pretty good. Even the application of black raspberry gel has been shown to regress oral pre-malignant lesions. When I read through the methods, they didn't specify where they got the black raspberries from. Topical black raspberry gel suppresses genes associated with RNA processing, growth factor recycling, and the inhibition of apoptosis in cancer cells. And that's pretty good for something you don't necessarily have to swallow, although it tastes great to swallow. The ellagic acid found in black raspberries binds to DNA damaging toxins and reduces the mutations that lead to cancer. Anthocyanin is also known to decrease inflammation in the gut, lowering colorectal cancer risk. Now, when I eat my berries and other fruits, I used to feel guilty that I didn't brush my teeth right away. Well, now I purposely don't brush my teeth right away so that the beneficial polyphenols can hang around in my mouth and do their magic to squash any kind of funny cells in my mouth. However, it doesn't work if you're going to eat added sugar and starchy foods, which both promote the growth of cavity-causing bacteria. I do, however, make it a point to rinse my teeth after I eat acidic fruits because they do erode dental enamel. Now, another item easily found in markets is number 5, much of green tea. When I drink green tea, I feel like I'm a warrior fighting against all the different kinds of toxins in my environment that are trying to attack my DNA. This is especially because I have to force myself to drink it. It's super bitter for me. I just used to put it in water, shake it up, and drink it. But I recently found that adding my matcha to warm soy milk actually cuts the bitterness down. So now I look forward to drinking that matcha, and it's not such hard work for me anymore. Now, in the U.S., I believe the military's preferred drink is coffee, and they use it to stay awake and alert. In fact, I believe coffee was a part of the wave to soldiers during World War II. However, the most popular drink around the world is tea, and that's because Asians drink tea. It's a longevity food. In general, tea has about a third of the caffeine compared to a typical cup of coffee. Now, matcha was actually consumed by samurai warriors in 12th century Japan to sustain focus and calmness during battle. Isn't that kind of cool? I don't ever hear anybody saying coffee keeps people calm. Now, I drink green tea because I believe it protects my DNA. However, the FDA back on September 25, 2005, issued a letter saying that green tea has insufficient or inconsistent evidence to support claims that it can reduce the risk of certain types of cancers. Now, to be fair, there's barely any studies on green tea. It's hard to test food against specific diseases because food is cheap and clinical studies are super expensive. And who's going to fund it? But we do know countries that drink high amounts of green tea, like Japan and China, have lower rates of cancers. And they live a lot longer than Americans. But association doesn't mean causation. There are some small studies showing positive effects on precancerous lesions. 59 patients with precancerous lesions were randomized into 2 groups. One group took some green tea extract powder and the other group got sugar pills. Within 6 months, 11 of the 29 in the tea group improved and only 3 out of 30 in the placebo group improved. They literally scraped some of those cells off the treatment group and they saw significant drop in DNA damage within 3 months of treatment with that tea extract. And another study in Japan noticed that there were fewer colonic polyps in people who drank green tea compared to those who didn't. And I get it. People want mechanistic proof, and therefore we're going to just need the government to help fund this, because who is going to put that up? Which green tea company is going to fork over that money when whatever benefit they show could benefit another company? So in the meantime, I'm just going to do what ancient longevity cultures do: eat longevity foods like green tea. Number 6, walnuts. The ancient Greeks referred to walnuts as a nut of Jupiter, considering them to be food for their gods due to their health benefits. In medieval Europe, walnuts were used in poultices to draw out toxins from wounds. Today, walnuts are thought of as a superfood for the brain. It literally looks like the brain. Studies have shown that walnuts can lower total cholesterol levels, C-reactive inflammatory protein levels, and cortisol levels. And all these are helpful to reduce inflammation, to support stem cells, as well as to squash cancer cells. Preclinical studies of walnuts have shown it to have an anti-cancer effect against liver, esophageal, prostate, and colon cancer because it has a ellagic acid, which, remember, is also in berries. Actually, in order to get ellagic acid, you have to have the right gut microbiome. Well, it contains ellagitamins that can be metabolized into ellagic acid, and which is then further broken down into your old elephants, which are highly bioactive and easily absorbed. You need gut microbes for this to do. There are several kinds of your elephants. Your elephants have anti-inflammatory effects, which potentially can benefit conditions like arthritis, cardiovascular disease, and neural inflammation. And of course, it has anti-cancer properties. We do see proliferation and inducing apoptosis in certain cancer cells. Now, their ability to moderate gut microbiota and inflammation may also contribute to cancer prevention. Your elephants can improve mitochondria function through a process called mitophagy, where damaged mitochondria are selectively removed and replaced with new ones. This is crucial for maintaining energy production and cellular health, particularly as we age. Enhanced mitochondrial health is linked to improved endurance and muscle function. A specific compound, areolenin A, may delay cellular aging and improve overall vitality. Walnuts are also rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which are also found in flax seeds. This is number 7. Take a look at this. Can you believe that ancient Egyptians buried flaxseed oil in tombs? Believe me, it could sustain the soul even in the afterlife. Kind of ironic, because flax seeds are high in alpha-linoleic acid, a polyunsaturated fatty acid that the body converts to omega-3 fats, which actually gets oxidized quite easily. And that's why I store this in a pretty tight jar. But I guess if you're going to be buried in a tomb, it would ultimately be deprived of oxygen. Whole flax seeds are rich in lignans, which bind to estrogen receptors. We do see hormone-driven cancers, such as breast cancer. So women who eat flax seeds regularly can reduce their risk of breast cancer by 20 to 30%. My mother-in-law is in her 90s. She eats flax seeds every day. I used to buy them I've known her for decades. There is an anti-inflammatory and cancer-promoting molecule called IL-1 in your body. Your body makes receptors against IL-1 called IL-1 receptor antagonists to stop cancer growth. Cancer chemotherapy like tamoxifen and all-natural flax seeds, about 25 grams, both increase your body's ability to stop cancer growth by making IL-1 receptor antagonists. Now, another ancient food to target is number 8, tofu. Tofu originated in China over 2,000 years ago, attributed to Lord Liu of the Han Dynasty, who discovered the coagulation process to make soybeans stick together. So it means containing alpha flavonoids that bind to selective estrogen receptor modulators to block the effects of harmful estrogen that you get from your body's own estrogen production or when you eat animal products. Isoflavone is one of several kinds of phytoestrogens known to reduce the risk of hormone-related cancers. Children who eat Sorry products have a lower risk of breast cancer when they grow up to be adults. Unlike dairy milk, which does not improve your bone health, soy actually can support bone health and is a complete plant-based protein. One of my favorite ways to see tofu is in Korean tofu soup, and I usually get the vegetarian version that's made out of mushrooms. Now, I already mentioned shiitake mushroom. Well, you can just eat the common white button mushrooms. Number 9 in your grocery store.
They also have protective beneficial effects against lowering your risk of breast cancer.
Today, if you eat white button mushrooms in the U.S., there's a good chance that's from Pennsylvania, where the mushroom farming industry started since the late 1800s. Now, white button mushrooms contain conjugated linoleic acid, which inhibits aromatase, an enzyme that converts androgens to estrogens. We're using this to target hormone-driven cancers. An added bonus is their selenium, herbal phytonutrients, and B vitamins, which all help protect against oxidative DNA damage. There are so many foods that can help us repair our DNA, reduce inflammation, and nourish our bodies. Probably the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to nutrition, not only for you, but for your gut microbiome, is beans. For some reason, people want to villainize the most sustainable food that can nourish the planet, beans, because they have some phytates. Now, phytates or phytic acid are naturally occurring compounds found in the seeds of plants, like grains, legumes, beans, and nuts. Now, they act as a storage form of phosphorus for the plants, for the plant-speaking foods, because they are considered to be anti-nutrient. As they combine with other minerals like calcium, iron, zinc, and magnesium, this can potentially reduce the absorption of these essential minerals in the body. However, they also have beneficial properties, particularly in the context of chronic diseases like cancer. Phytates have antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and immune modulating properties. Research suggests that they can inhibit the growth of cancer cells, induce cancer cell death called apoptosis, and reduce the spread known as metastasis of certain cancers, particularly colon, breast, and prostate cancer. Phytates also can slow the digestion of carbohydrates, which promotes better glycemic control. Some studies suggest phytates might help prevent calcium oxalate kidney stone formation by reducing calcium crystallization. So, if eating beans is that bad, then why would civilizations have survived feeding on beans? And obviously, they are more nutritious than they are harmful. Beans are ancient food. Ancients have been eating beans for thousands of years by billions of people. How long has your protein powder or energy drink been on the market? Beans are dietary staples around the world, and the ancient ones refer to beans as one of the 3 sisters, along with corn and squash. However, like anything in life, there's a balance to fight acid levels because they won't reduce your absorption of minerals. So, if you're struggling with getting things like zinc, which 1 billion people around the globe are deficient in, then you should reduce your phytic acid in beans. And this is very simple to do. Number 1, you can sprout beans before you cook them. That decreases phytic acid levels. Sprouting also increases other nutrient bioavailability. But if you don't have time to sprout them, you can just soak your beans in water for about 12 to 24 hours before our cooking, which activates phytase enzymes that break down phytic acid. You can also add an acidic medium like lemon juice or vinegar to that soaking water, which can further reduce phytic levels, but it can make your beans a little bit sour. Now, fermenting beans, such as tempeh, significantly decreases phytic acid content, and it can boost probiotic benefits. But the most important thing of all is to cook your beans properly before you eat them. Properly soaking and then cooking and fermenting your beans reduces residual phytic and neutralizes other anti-nutrients such as lectins. And if you want to learn more about how to best cook your beans and other anti-nutrients, watch the next video.